Welcome to Around the Kinky Campfire podcast. This is your host, the Cuddle Gigolo, aka El Comedin, aka Mango Boogies, but also known officially as HH Julius, your entertainment creative. I'm here with Miss Rue, our education guru, and our goal in this podcast is to destigmatize the taboo topics of kink, non-monogamy, and BDSM. We like to educate through awareness and with our experiences, and we are not certified professionals as of yet. So our non-judgmental topics with a dash of facts are to be taken mostly as entertainment and with some slice of life anecdotal stories. Your opinions, lifestyles, and or way of thinking may not be in alignment with ours, but your opinion, lifestyle, way of thinking is also okay as well. And the fact that you have an opinion is valid. We're not here to change your minds. We are here just to provide a different point of view. Please join us every second and fourth Thursdays of every month, and our episodes are uploaded to all major platforms: Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, etc., etc. Please look forward to this coming episode, as we will start shortly, and make sure to especially pay attention to our ASR Minute, which will start very soon. Welcome back to Around the Kinky Campfire, the Pillow Fort Sessions. This is your host, Mr. Cuddle Gigolo. I'm putting your Mr. on there. It's official now. AKA El Comedin, AKA Colonel McBee. No. Or just HH Julius, your entertainment creative here, to once again give you a short little episode of the Pillow Fort Sessions, going on for about 30 minutes or so, talking about a specific topic that's a little bit different than what we do on the main episode. I'm trying to fill you guys in the meantime, in between episodes and all that there. So wanted to talk to y'all about roles and labels. Just going to get straight into it. I do have a drink with me, so do the little ASMR 5 seconds. It's a Celsius Arctic Vibe, not sponsored. All right, you can count of 3, 2, 1. Delicious. Okay, let's get down into it. Why do I want to talk about roles and labels? Everybody always asks why people have different names. What is the point of all this? And some people are against roles and labels, and I think that's kind of interesting as well. Is like, why would you not want to name something? And as your resident robot slash nerd on all these things, I actually enjoy labels and roles and what we call them and all that stuff, because labels are an identity. Also, I think I mentioned this before, I like cosplaying and dressing up as well. So many different options. Why not go around and see what works for you, what doesn't work for you, all that in between. So it's interesting when people are like, I don't like labels. It's like, yes, they are kind of like a confining. I don't know what confining, limiting, that type of thing. But my thing is, labels are a jumping off point. They don't just limit you. Like Kinkster or Lifestyler. It's like, that's part of who I am. That's not the whole picture. So yeah, I'm definitely one of the persons that goes on to FetLife, especially in the before times. Back in my day, you could only choose one username and you have to stick with that. Otherwise, you have to create a new profile and you only got one role. Now, we talked about this before, but you have
plenty of roles and plenty of labels now that you can put on your profile. I'm glad that they updated that so you can do that, and you can change your username like once every 3 months or so now, currently. And it's nice to be able to add those nuances on there. You are limited to only 5 because I understand there's most of us out there, definitely myself included, would have like 10 or 20 because it gives you an idea, and it's like I don't know what all those words mean, but yeah, that's an interesting person there. For me, I know I like to do the research for all the different names and stuff, and I got the files and all these different shared things where share files, websites, whatever you want to call it, where they define all the labels and roles. I'm not going to do that today because there's just so many, but I have them saved for myself. So I know the ones that I have on my profile and what they mean. But yeah, there's a bunch of stuff all the time. And we did that little fun episode where we went through some of them. But ever since then, I've always wanted to talk about what roles and labels, definitely what they mean to me, but just in general. As y'all know, in the Pillow Fort sessions, I get right down into the nitty gritty, the definitions and the scientific background behind all of it, and then also get the information out there. Use it if you want. Don't listen to me, but then, do your own research, that type of thing. See what works for you and why you like it. I definitely, like I've said like a minute ago, labels are an identity, but they are not restrictive as far as I'm concerned. It's like, oh, you're into that, maybe we have that in common, that type of thing. It gives you something to talk about, like especially if you're on the right side of the slash, bottom sub, whatever you want to call yourself. It's like you probably don't want to get in a relationship with another bottom sub, right side of the slash in general. This is definitely a generalization, but it's like you're probably looking for somebody on the left side of the slash, so that helps. It's like, what side of the slash are you on? That's attributing factor to establishing a relationship. You want to mix with somebody that's similar, well, on the opposite end that you are. So it's like you need a label for that. So how would you? I don't understand. I appreciate the people that can just go out and like, not have labels and just kind of find people and like develop a. It's like, yes, I get that. That makes sense. For me, I like all the different things. So it's like let me know what you're into. At least give me a baseline idea and what role you're filling and looking for, because then it's like we can go from there. That's a good starting point. But other reasons that people like roles and labels, it's good for role playing. Also, definitely good for dynamics, especially beyond the physical. So, as what I was saying before is, you usually want to find somebody that's on the other side of the slash than you are, or just switching or whatever. But labels are a good way of identifying those people. And definitely if you decide to do dynamics as well. During my research, I did see role playing. I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's pretty good. Because in role playing, which I could probably do an episode on that at some point, which would be very nice. In role playing, you want to establish a character. I guess the actual role playing a character. And everybody needs to fill a role and be identified as a character. You can't have everybody playing the same role, a character, because then that would be not very creative. It's like, that's going to be a very short scene or whatever you're doing, because role playing doesn't have to always be just, in the BDSM or kink stuff in general. When you go see a play, everybody has a different role or character. Everybody can't be the same exact character. Otherwise, that would be a very short experience. Interesting. But roles and labels can be defined as somewhat of a definition, but they're used to describe your sexual or romantic orientation, bodies, and additional experience with privilege and oppression. They help people to understand the differences in needs, culture, and personalities. That's like the Webster's dictionary version. A lot of the articles I saw, that's what the definition a lot of people use to explain what a label is, or a role in the BDSM sense. So that's the one I'm going off today with. going off today, however you want to put it. Very broad topic, trying to boil it down into something that people can use. So the two examples I used before, role playing, usually used for the duration of an encounter or scene or play, whatever have you. And then the actual power dynamic is a somewhat permanent fixture. It's usually the norm, because when you get into a dynamic with people, it's usually an ongoing experience. You, in general, have a contract, don't always need that. And your role kind of is established at the beginning and then is the same throughout, with, of course, a few differences in the specific relationship, however you want to do. But usually they're fixed when you're entering a dynamic, rather than role playing, which is usually only for that scene, very limited experience. And then when exploring dynamics, the dynamic experience is not meant to be rigid, but it's flexible and meant to adapt. You can have multiple roles in the dynamic. So once again, the dynamic roles don't usually change, but once you're like talking about it, negotiating, usually they're more flexible at the beginning, and then when you're vetting people or trying them out, potentials and all that, partners should discuss boundaries, limits, and expectations through consent, communication, and negotiation, so you can build like a trust and a mutual respect when going into it. But labels are good for that. And choosing a label is good because it's essential for the power exchange, because defining authority and submission is usually the goal of a dynamic. Helps for clear communication, trust, and consent. And then just remember that BDSM is diverse. So multiple labels could mean multiple things depending on the person. And then I know for me, my roles and labels and how I like to be referred to changes over the years as I get more information and more experience. So let's just remember that as well. And then also, everybody has a different definition. That's a big thing that people assume, I guess, is like, you have Dom on your profile. Does that mean you do that all the time? Is that all around thing, or is it just for scenes and when you're in the BDSM community, or is it like you do that in your regular life? There's all different kinds of things. I know for me, like, I'm usually dominant, but it's not a choice all the time, involuntarily type of thing, because it's like, if nobody else is going to lead, then I guess I got to take the role. And it's like, but I didn't really consent to do this with this specific group of people, but I kind of have to because nobody else is doing it. It's like, oh goodness. So kind of develop that persona that way. And now I don't know when to turn it. No, yeah, it's interesting to hear people say, oh, he's very dominant personalities, because I had to. It's not really I wanted to. I don't really know how to turn it off now. And it's bled over into the online world, especially with like my profiles. It's like, you have a very dominant profile, and it's like, that's not really what I'm trying to do, because I do identify as a switch and verse. And it's like, yeah, I don't want that to be assumed that I do that with everybody. And switches get hate like that sometimes. It's like, I do switch, but I'm not going to switch roles with everybody. So, like, ask me a question. So this is a big motivating factor for me to talk about this specifically, because it's like, stop making assumptions, ask questions. And speaking of, labels, in my opinion, can be used to facilitate discussions about connection and compatibility, should not be used to define limits, and there's no universal agreement on the definition. So, like, ask more questions. And I'm glad I saw, when I was doing my research, in a lot of the articles that I came across, it's like a lot of people have the same opinion as well. It's like, don't limit your view on somebody because of the labels that they have. It's like, ask more questions. It's a good starting point. What does it mean for you to be on the right side of the slash? Do you know what that phrase means? Right side of the slash, left side of the slash. Do you know the difference between top and bottom, or the difference between top and bottom and all the other roles? It's like, some of our actions and some of our are like a label. So something you do, versus something you're called. That type of thing. Do people even understand that? A lot of people, don't top and bottom don't make that distinction. It's like, then you decide at that point is like, do you agree to move along with this person or not? Because I feel you should agree on the small points, and then you can move up to the bigger ones. But if you're not agreeing on the small points, it's like, what do you have in common, actually? And then another thing that labels do, they give us words needed to self-identify, and then they describe relationships and connections, and you can find communities and places to belong. So that's a connection thing when you're trying to find your place in life. If I'm a pet player or a furry, it's like I'm going to find furry groups to be a part of, because in general, that's how I feel. So labels are good in that sense. It's just very interesting when people say I don't like labels. It's like, what do you mean by that exactly? Because that's how we connect with other people. If I'm into comedy and it's like I'm a stand-up comedian connoisseur, it's like I'm going to go find other people that are into that. I need that label to identify the other people that have a similar thing with me. And especially communities, everybody has a different way of thinking depending on what they connect with. So, especially like I'm part of the board game community. It's when I talk to people about board games, different way of thinking. It's I don't know if it's like a learned skill how to play board games, but it changes the way you think. And I'd like to connect with people that think the similar ways that I do. So you need labels to identify those people. So group identity labels can be empowering because they enable community building and shared efforts for advocacy. I guess that's more like a volunteering type thing. Enables people of diverse sexualized genders, bodies, and relationships to communicate with solidarity and pride. So in my experience, it seems like when people find their community, they're able to gain some confidence and some pride in what they do. Of course, there's a bunch of different communities out there, so it's hard to like generalize all of them. But I just know from my experience, when I found my place, especially with like the BDSM community, it's like, ooh, I belong here. I feel better now. I'm more mentally stable, and I can talk about this stuff. And it, took me a while to finally come out as like an educator on the thing, just because I had gained so much experience with it and had done research. It's like, maybe I should teach other people about this, because I see a lot of the same questions over and over again, and like people don't know where to go to get answers, because the internet for specifics is just horrible. But you can find information. Hopefully it's mostly correct, but do your due diligence. As I say again, don't listen to me. Do your own research. I know it can be hard to find a lot of the times, but that's where you just develop the skill of developing a filter to figure out what's good information or not. And then as long as you're being safe and doing it with somebody that's consenting to it, always try it out for yourself. If you come across a role that you think fits with you, it's like, hey, let me go find somebody else that's into that role, or the other end of that role, or looking for what I'm relating to at the time. Then try that out too, to make sure that it fits for you. Julius is a big proponent of negotiating, so always negotiate and just say like, hey, this is something I'm trying out. I feel that I'm this way, but let me know what you think, and then I'll, test it out in this one and other things myself to see if it works for me. That's totally something you can negotiate. Practice. People make mistakes, and, you recover from the mistakes. It's only really a bad mistake if you didn't learn from it. Always be making sure you take note and try to learn from something, a new experience. Good starting point when speaking to someone new. Labels are very helpful with that, and not to be used for limiting, and it's more of a guidepost. So something, springboard, foundation to start off with. And yeah, roles change over the years as you learn more things. I don't know how many times I can say that enough. People like to set you in a certain place in their mind. It's just, cognitive expedience. And then they like, oh, you weren't that way like 2 years ago. It's like, yes, it's been 2 years. You think I didn't learn anything since then? I hope you did. Hope you're a different person since then. So it's like, don't limit people to a role. That stuff changes all the time. I know for me, especially, the username might change. People are always thrown off by that. I was like, it's like, yeah, it's been like 5 years I've used that. Stuff has changed since then. That's the kind of thing you do. So I wanted to reiterate again, roles and labels are good starting off points, but don't make the assumption that people are going to stay the same. Change happens. It happens, people. It happens. All right, campsters? That's a thing that's going to be a constant. Only constant is change. That's it. Labels usually fall into 3 categories. They're either given to you, earned within a community, or self-designated for personal enjoyment, or you can prefer no label at all. I would say given to you, or you choose it for yourself, that type of thing. Depending on what community you're in, the different kinds of labels that are there, you can choose it for yourself. And then some people get it from outside sources, or it's earned. And of course, you can always prefer no label at all. I don't want to cast judgment on people that don't prefer labels. Like I said, I'm very jealous of those people that can go anywhere. It just kind of makes my brain hurt when it's like, well, what do you are? I don't identify with anything. It's like, what does that mean? Yeah, I don't like labels. It's just very confusing for me, but I am very jealous of it. You can go out through your day like that and life like that, and it still works for you. So yeah, everybody has choices, and that's usually the categories that labels and roles fall into. It's very wrong to have expectations associated with labels. Again, I'm going to keep saying that. That's probably my number one reason for talking about this today in this episode. Do not make assumptions. Do not make assumptions. Expectations. So bad. And then, especially if you're going to start going down that path, make sure you confirm with the person. What does this role label mean to you? Everybody has different definitions. I cannot say that enough. There's like 5 things I need to repeat over and over again. Because people make these assumptions. Oh, you're that? That means this. And it's like, no. Just because I have sub on there does not mean I'm just going to let anybody just bend me over and smack me on the ass. That's not how that works. Not how that works. First, we need to have a conversation. Let's get to know each other. That type of thing. And you see that all the time. Oh, you have this as your role. That means this. It's like, whoa. How about you ask me what it means to me before you just make this assumption? Terrible. People like to place people in boxes to try and simplify their lives. Like I said, cognitive expedience. All labels have multiple meanings per person. It is a spectrum. There's different meanings to all the different labels. Also, you don't know what experience level that person's in that you're talking to. Let's make sure that, they're going off the same thing. There's been people that identify with a certain gender, but then they put the other name, say they identify as like male or female, but then, you have Dom versus Dom A. People like to make that distinction, and then they'll put that on their profile. And it's like, wait, are you cisgendered or transgender? Oh, hey, so but that's for females or males. Okay, wait, I'm so confused. Are you exploring the different gender roles as well? No? Oh, okay. Well, did you know that? And it's like, oh yeah, I'm new. I didn't know the difference. And it's like, see, you just learned some more information about that person. So it's like, how did you come across that in the first place? Let's talk about that. What does that mean to you exactly? Do you understand the word that you put on your profile that you say you identify with? That type of thing, and then I know for me that that lets me see if somebody's being genuine or not, if they're actually doing their research, or they're just kind of just going out there and just slapping stuff on and not seeing how it works. Because you put it on your profile, but you didn't do any research and like asked or asked questions or something. But like I said, everybody makes mistakes, but it helps to know what their authenticity level is. I can say words. So it's a good starting point as far as I'm concerned with that. And then use to clear up misunderstandings and gives a heads up. It's easier to have discussions and feel the need for belonging and give relief that there is a term to describe how you feel. I know for me, especially when I found the word demisexual and the A spectrum in general, it's like, oh, there's people that are sex averse, turned off completely by the thought of being physically with somebody else in that sense, in the sexual sense. And it's like, oh my goodness, I relate to these people. I understand now. Open me up to a whole new world. I understand why I don't just want to go out there and get my dick wet when talking to people. It's like, oh, this makes more sense now. Okay, I can't hook up with random people. It's not possible for me. This is why. So I, once again, really enjoy labels for that reason. There's a community out there, and I can get on the Reddits or whatever, and the other people relate to me, and I see all the different comments and stories. It's like, oh, I feel you, my friend. I'm the same way. I don't understand hookup culture either. Why would you do this? Oh, goodness. And especially in the BDSM community, I don't understand pickup play. It's just, what? Why would you do that? Let's have a few drinks, talk about different things. Coffee is a drink as well, so you can do that for the non-alcohol people, but it's so confusing to me. And now I know why, and there's other people that relate to me, so we can all relate together and have these discussions. It's okay to be different. You know how that started? Because there was a label for it. And I did my research, and I figured out why. Why is this label here? Oh, that makes sense now because that. I mean, they really haven't figured out if it's genetic or like due to your environment. But whatever the reason, I'm demisexual, and that's definitely one of the main labels that I identify with, and hopefully give off, present that way. So yeah, all those different things. It's very interesting once you get down into all the different labels. Whew, and there's so many. I feel like FetLife, they're just adding more. It's so interesting for me to see. Let's see. And then labels allow you to tell someone who doesn't know you how you see yourself in the world. I know, especially with my vanilla friends, they're interested / confused by all the different things, but then once you explain, oh, this is how I am, and there's a name for it, it's like it just makes more sense for people. I know it's very normal in regular society for people to have relationship labels, girlfriend, boyfriend, that type of thing. It's helpful for them to be able to understand who you're with and everything. That's the negative. That's that box I was talking about. It's good that you need something to help you understand, but it's like, still ask more questions. Just because I say this person is a girlfriend or boyfriend, it's like, what does that mean exactly? Especially if you're in the poly community. Yay, another label. There we go. Completely different for us, what that means. And even in the communities themselves, the different words have different definitions. So that's why I always want to reiterate, always ask questions, have a conversation before you just make an assumption from a label. Because not hopefully, at some point in your life, you're going to come across a community, and hopefully you enjoy being a part of that community. But it's like, there's going to be more questions you're going to have. You got to have some way of jumping off. I kind of lost my point with this little rant that I had. You're going to be part of a community, and people are going to make assumptions. Hopefully they ask you more questions about it, and hopefully those answers as well. But being able to relate to a community is great. And, even the smart people say it, the scientists say it. You have to be social. You should be sociable. People that are part of communities and social live longer. That's what the research says. So I know for me, labels and roles help me with that, to understand that. And I feel like in the BDSM community, we have more conversations in general. And then because there are so many roles and labels, there's, assumptions happen, but more discussion is invoked. And it's like normalized to have a discussion, because that's helpful for all the different things that we have. So communities with more roles and labels have more discussions, it seems like. And then once again, not judging anybody, but the people in vanilla world or normies or whatever you want to call them. Doesn't really happen because it's kind of assumed because it's the majority. So it's like, oh, okay, we're the majority. We really don't need to talk about this stuff. It's like, but you should still talk about this stuff. This is still a thing to talk about. Hopefully this episode inspired you to talk more. Have a conversation, people. And don't make assumptions. Don't make assumptions. Not to be limiting. A place to talk about. So I hope I got to convince somebody of that, labels are good for that reason. They spark conversation, if nothing else. Ask a question, you get an answer. And it's always different for other people. So always ask that. Yeah, like I don't understand the thing of like just have a role with somebody, but that should inspire conversation, not just like limit people. It's like, oh, you're that. Like, why would you not ask what that means to that person? It's always different. Like if you had a conversation with anybody, like their opinion differs, whatever it is, whatever the popular thing is, there's always going to be somebody that has a differing opinion. So asking why is a good place to start. All right. So I think I rambled enough about roles and labels. Very generic topic to talk about, very much an umbrella thing, but I think I found enough information for this to be an actual talking point. The articles I found were very generic as well. It's like, I want to know why we have labels. I get why labels are good, but it's like, why do we have them in the first place? So this might be a topic I talk about multiple times as well, because it's just how the topic is. But I feel labels are good as a talking point, not an eliminating thing. Have more conversations because of the labels. And don't just use cognitive expedience to make assumptions, and they're usually going to be wrong. Unspoken expectations / assumptions lead to long-term resentment. I'm going to feel that way and agree with that quote for a long time. That's how it is. So let's get more conversation going, people. But anyways, that's it for now. This is your host, HH Julius, the entertainment creative, also known as the Cuddle Gigolo. Still haven't jumped on that. I should probably get on that at some point. El Comedin, General McBee, Colonel McBee, Major McBee, whatever it is, jokingly. This has been the Pillow Fort sessions of Around the Kinky Campfire podcast. Most of the time, episodes are like every other Thursday. Most of the time, we'll see. Taking a little break for a little bit. The Pillow Fort sessions are in between there, but the regular episode should be every second and fourth Thursdays of the month. With an asterisk next to that. Available on all major platforms. Please go and review, give us those stars if you feel like you enjoy this. But thank you for the people that continue to download, even though we take breaks. I see that on the things and really appreciate that when it happens. But that's all for now. Hello.